Okay. There we go. Okay, do you want to see whether or not we yep, we have breakout rooms.
Great. And we have one participant.
What's this?
Hey. Hope this is where we're supposed to be.
Well, if we don't get okay, we're somebody connected.
Hi, Casey.
You have to unmute, honey.
Oh, hi, Casey.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Good,
Thanks.
good.
Thanks for joining. There'll be at least 3 of us.
I think everybody's just
Where-
refreshing coffee.
Yes.
Where are you, Casey?
Devil's Lake at Lake Region State College.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
right. Yeah.
Oh, you used to live in Spirit Lake.
Yeah, I used to live in St. Michael. You know,
I just
St. Michael?
no, I moved here from Minnesota just under a year ago, so the geography is still new.
Oh, okay. So St. Michael's at Spirit Lake,
Okay.
but not far from you.
Thanks, Don, for joining us. We just saw you.
Let's see around it.
Welcome, Don and Becky. Thanks for joining us.
How are you?
So Becky needs to be co-host.
Okay.
Co-host.
Co-host.
Okay.
Becky, we think we made you co-host. Did that work?
Just unmute.
Great.
Okay. That'd be
So
great.
Paul in Maryland, is it actually spring out there for you?
It was.
Not today. We're expecting some really strange weather this week.
Are
We
you?
were getting used to 70-degree weather, which is great shorts weather. This
Yep.
week it dropped. I think the high today is 50, and it's the highest temperature for the week. We're expecting rain and snow for the rest of the week, including maybe as much as 4 inches by, is it Wednesday or something?
Sure, Friday.
Yeah, we might get some more snow. So I think spring is not quite ready to be over.
But we never complained to people in North Dakota.
Yes, yes.
Well, and actually we were in the
That might
same
be tough.
boat. It's been, of course,
Uh-huh.
it's been super dry. It's ugly here right now. Everything is brown. I am so tired of seeing brown. So nothing is greened up yet, just because it is so dry. But today we get the slush coming down and supposedly it's turning to snow tonight and another 1 to 3 inches, and which would be great for us. We need that. So
Good.
Yeah, we're in severe drought almost everywhere in Colorado.
is that right?
So,
Wow.
yeah,
Scary.
So we won't complain about any rain.
We actually,
Yeah,
our areas out
was
here
gonna-
went into, oh, what did they call it? The the burn bans are now in place until November 1st.
Oh my goodness.
Until, unless it is lifted, but just plan for no burning this year whatsoever.
Yeah,
oh,
we've
wow.
already had a couple of fires already
Yeah.
in Colorado, and because it's been so dry.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
They
the
just
snow is
had
going to be
one.
welcome.
They just had one out by Medora, by the amphitheater there. It did not hurt the theater, but scary close.
Oh, yeah.
So we always pass right by you there, Dawn, every summer on our way to Canada go up to Quetico
Do you?
Provincial Park. But Ontario is closed, so I don't know if we're going to get there again this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been
Canada-
trying
yeah.
desperately to get up to Manitoba too, and no, can't do that
Yeah.
yet. Our neighbors to
Canada
the
is
north
worse.
don't want us.
Yeah, well, they're doing much worse with the vaccinations.
Yeah.
And they're saying maybe no international travel until September.
Oh,
So we hope that doesn't happen, because last year it broke our record. We were in Quetico for 25 years. It's what we do every year as a family, and we couldn't do it last year. So we're hoping this year we can start again going back, but who knows?
you'll have to go twice
Yeah.
this year.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
It's only a 1,300-mile drive from our house.
Yeah. But it might be December, and that's a little cold.
A different adventure.
It's about 1:30, but we're going to wait just a little bit and see if some other people decide to join.
Yeah.
And I think cats are moderator. So
Not sure.
she said she was going to introduce us again.
Oh, did she?
I think that's what she said.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Kayleen.
Hello. Hi.
Nice to have you with us.
Good afternoon.
Good
Hi.
afternoon.
I'll show my picture in a minute.
Okay. Welcome, Ashley.
I'm
That's,
munching on something, so
yeah. These virtual meetings and conferences, it's kind of, we get a little too casual and comfortable.
that's for
Good,
sure.
that's extra.
Maybe another minute.
Yeah, we'll wait a couple more minutes. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Paul. You were so exceptional. I just thought it was amazing, Paul. You just put into a narrative, what we all should do all of the time and the way we should think. And I loved it.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, thanks, Cheryl. I so appreciate that.
Thank you.
It was-
Yeah.
It was nice to see you this morning.
Yes. Also, I love those photos. I remember those days.
When we looked like that. Thank you.
Yeah, when we look, and didn't Colorado do Age of Aquarius one year, or was that Montana? I can't remember, but
Don't
I just
remember.
remember
No,
that
I don't know.
particular time too. That's good. Oh. And I think Elaine and we brought our guitars or something the one time, and we wore like cowboy hats.
If only we had all those pictures. Well, no, maybe it's a good thing we don't have all those pictures.
And we don't.
Brenda's agreeing that we should not.
I remember dancing in the hospitality room.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good idea. They didn't have videos, right?
Right, absolutely.
No, but I just laughed like when you said about being on the flight, from the governmental relations perspective. I mean, that's like so
Yes.
cool.
What a great opportunity squandered.
Yeah, no. Oh.
Or maybe we should get started.
Yeah, I think maybe
it's-
so.
We'll go ahead and get started.
Let's see. I'm gonna share screen. Oh, not there. Okay. Well, nice to see you all. Thanks so much for either rejoining or joining. We've got a nice cozy group, and it'll be nice to be with you this next period of time. I think you know that I'm Paul Thayer, and I spent about 40 years working in one way or another with Trio. And to be back with the Trio family, to be with you, all of you today is just really an honor and a pleasure.
And I'm Marilyn, and though I retired from my formal position as the director of the Trio SSS project at CSU, I think we all know we never retire from Trio. I mean, it still remains a real commitment for all of us. And one of the opportunities for me in my continuing of the commitment is to serve as the chair for the Aspire Leadership Institute.
So, whoop, that was the welcome and the introduction. Now, if you happen to be with us for the earlier session, we talked about some of the dilemmas we faced in Trio and the many levels of responsibility programs that we execute, we talked about how important it was to be inward facing. Excuse me, how tempting it is to be inward facing, but how important it is to engage outwardly with the institution and beyond. We talked about our view of leadership as a mindset, and we talked about how important it was to tell a distinctive and powerful story. So that's where we were this morning. And what we'd like to ask you to do is join in an activity.
And I think we have a nice small group, and I think looks like it's an even number. So this is going to be great. So we're going to have you pair up with someone from the group. And again, if you don't know the other person, to please share your name, the name of your institution project, and the position that you have in your program. And to continue on the mindset of leadership, we want you to think about sharing with your partner an incident when you really demonstrated your leadership. And then the second part of it is, did this reinforce for you about your position as a leader? Did this make you feel that you really are a leader? So that belief in yourself as a leader is what we would also like you to kind of chat about. And we're giving you 3 minutes each to do this. So we're going to break out in rooms, and I guess there's 3. Huh?
So we do 3.
There's how many
I think we've got
participants?
8.
How many participants do we have?
Let's do 4 rooms. I hope that's not going to have one room with one person in it. Let's try. Yeah, that
Okay.
looks like it's going to work. So, Dennis, are you really here as a participant? So I don't want.
Gonna
Okay,
say down
Donna.
front there he
Just
is.
here to help out Kat get into the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Dawn, we're going to join I think we're going to join you. So here we go.
Okay.
Everybody know what we're doing? Here we go. So we'll see you in a few minutes back.
Okay, Dawn is on. Everyone is joining.
So we need to join.
How do we join? How do we join? So
Okay.
it's a 6-minute kind of a time frame for each group.
Okay, so I need to send that.
Teach partners.
Okay, and why don't you share a story with?
Okay. Okay. Do you want to give the notice?
Yeah.
This is a very small group, huh?
So this is me.
Right. I'm going to process a little first.
Yeah.
We're going to mute us.
Mhm.
Good.
Thanks for being part of our group, Don.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I guess the final question of what did I learn about myself? But yeah, I could actually do it.
Good,
Yes.
good, good, good. Maybe we can ask a couple to share and maybe not necessarily how you demonstrated being a leader, but whether or not it was an opportunity either for you to believe in yourself or maybe doubt yourself as leader. So maybe we'll have a couple share.
Calling somebody.
Okay, Becky, how about you? We have a small group, so I think I can pick on all of you.
We focused a little bit more on just getting to know each other and each other's programs. Casey and I we're in a breakout room together, and Casey shared that he works with non-trio students and really has that focus of wanting to ensure that students come in to meet with him throughout the semester, throughout the year. So we brainstormed a few ideas, or tried to brainstorm a few ideas that could help him out in his program.
Okay, good. Thanks. Marion, it's good to see you. I was going to ask you how.
Oh, she just
Oh.
sent us a message that she's going to step out for a minute.
Oh, okay. Then I'll have to pick on, is it Kayleen? Is that how you pronounce your name?
It's
Kayleen, would you like to share a
Kaylin.
little bit about? Oh,
Kaylin.
Kaylin.
Yeah,
sorry.
sure. I was actually just talking to Marianne, who popped out briefly a minute ago. So yeah, I was just saying that I don't really see myself as a leader. I kind of just show up to do my job. But I usually find myself in leadership roles in addition to my role in Trio SSS at NDSU as a programming specialist, because I just get volunteered, or someone, says she can do that. Most recently, I've had a group of students, a small group of Somali students. I'm not Somali, but they started the Somali Student Association on campus, and they just found me and said, "Hey, we need an advisor. Can you, commit to working with us?" They really needed a name on paper, but I have committed to working with that group and thoroughly enjoy my students, and I'm learning a lot from them. But also with NDSU getting in, I'll just say, hot water with all the hate speech incidences on campus and all of that, because someone appointed me, I found myself on the student code review committee. So, we're taking a look at our student code. We're rewriting that. There's an anti-racism coalition. I've gotten involved in that. And every once in a while, someone just might say, "Hey, that's your go-to person." And I sort of just get appointed to these additional roles, but not because I actually see myself stepping out as like a leader in my role, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And sometimes by default, we're given those roles as leaders.
Mhm.
And one of the, I guess, a very basic belief in yourself as a leader helps you to become a successful or effective leader. And we hope that this activity helped each of you not only believe in your capabilities, whether or not you volunteered to be in that position or were assigned that position, but it's also that it's critical for all of us. And I think we pointed this out earlier this morning, and we want to reinforce it again, is regardless of your position in your projects or your experience or your backgrounds, it's important to recognize and assume that that your responsibility as a leader is part of your role as being a trio professional. And it takes courage, discipline, as well as intention, really to develop into the kind of leader that you want to become.
So here's where we want to go from here. We want to talk about this broad concept of leadership and the idea that every one of us is called to lead. And that leadership is really about making a difference, whether large and small. We want to talk about our own association, our Aspire Association's narrative of purpose. We want to talk about the idea that leadership roles aren't sacrificing everything about your project to do something in leadership. It's about complementing what you do in your project with a leadership role. We want to think about all the different places that we have opportunities to engage. So one of the things that we want to say as strongly as we can is that our view as leaders is that leadership is not a matter of position, but a mindset. It is not being a dean, a vice president, a director, a coordinator. It is being a person who's playing an important role, as you all are in your TRIO programs. So we are, each of us in TRIO, called on to be leaders for equity. That's what we're doing. That's why we are in this work, is to be leaders for equity, no matter our position or years of experience. We're called on not only to be talented and skilled with our students, but also to serve our students through our interactions with our institutions and state education policy. And to do all this, we need to be exceptionally clear and powerful communicating the TRIO story.
Well, we're going to be discussing mindsets that enhance leadership, but we all are aware that there are mindsets that limit leadership as well. In fact, a little self-disclosure here. Paul and I struggle oftentimes with self-doubt and the imposter syndrome. So you can imagine what it was like at our house for the past few days, especially yesterday, still scrambling around to prepare for our 2 sessions today. Let's go ahead and bring some of these up. So we wanted to kind of share some of what these limiting mindsets might be. Can you,
What if I make a mistake?
what if I make a mistake? Thank you. What if I make a mistake? This is an extra burden. I just want to do my job. What if will my peers think that I'm stepping out of my place? Am I doing something that I shouldn't be doing? Do I have what it takes to be a leader? Will I know how to make the right decisions? Do other people believe in me? And maybe another question could be, do I believe in myself? Well, what happens when you begin to doubt your abilities of being a leader? What can you do when you're worried that you don't have what it takes? We often view self-doubt and questioning ourselves and the abilities to be a sign of weakness. Leaders are expected to know what to do. They're capable, they're self-assured, to have all the answers. Yet we all know that we all struggle with self-doubt, but it can be especially hard on people who are expected to be leaders to admit this, to acknowledge this. In fact, self-doubt and vulnerability are one of the most common and normal experiences in leadership. But of course, it does affect the way we think and lead. It makes us feel uncomfortable. Our self-confidence drops. It even can affect our performance from time to time. It can really be that negative force that can be so strong that it prevents you from learning and growing and be the leader that you want to be. Well, instead of thinking vulnerability or self-doubt as a weakness, we can reframe this and turn self-doubt into a strength. Again, one of the first important things to do is to acknowledge it, to realize that I am feeling vulnerable. I am having self-doubt, because recognizing being vulnerable, it's just a feeling. It's not that you have failed at anything, it's a feeling. And having this feeling is not a failure. Being vulnerable and open is a part of trust building process. To be open and honest with one another, with people on your team, to say is, I might not feeling good about this at this time, or taking on this job, this responsibility, but it helps in your relationship building with your peers. It also can be a source of hope, empathy, and accountability, and being authentic. And it can allow you to really take a pause, take a step back to identify what can you really do now to move forward. I think that Jared talked about this point this morning, not only looking up, but looking down. And if we look down, it's what's that next step we want to take. So it can help you to be more intentional and have the kinds of decisions that can help you be a successful leader. And I want to end this particular concept with a quote from Brene Brown. Some of you might be familiar with the work that she does in this area. And she says that it's important for all of us to have the courage to be vulnerable.
I have to say, I went through so many years and years and years thinking, just with time, I'm going to get to the point where I'm totally confident and no longer have these self-doubts. Well, having worked 50 years and still being in that place where I experience self-doubt constantly, I'd have to say it is something that sticks with the person often for a long time. But the issue is not allowing it to get in the way of our doing new and important things.
So what's some alternative mindsets that we can have as leaders? Being a leader is my responsibility. It's up to each of us to share in the building of our organization. I'm committed to making a difference. How can I use this opportunity to better serve our students, our project, our institution, and our community?
Well, one thing that I think kind of demystifies leadership is that it is really just about influence. Influence, not authority, but influence. And we influence people in so many different ways. We influence people just by role modeling, by being the person that we are, being a person who's committed to our purposes, to equity, for example. So thinking about leadership as influence, the capacity to influence is an essential leadership skill. And all that takes is the inclination to influence, the recognition that that's a part of what we're doing. We're intending to influence our students in order that they will be as successful as possible in reaching their goals. It's the same within our organization. We're wanting to influence those around us in positive ways so that we all reach our organizational goals. The sphere of influence is a way that we might think about the reach of our influence. And we might think about it a little bit like this. The center is our own self, knowing ourselves and figuring out ways that we want to influence ourselves in the directions that we aspire to. But then the next circle is close colleagues, all the people that you work with within TRIO or around campus. The next one, other organizations that you people in or other organizations that you interact with. And finally, communities and institutions, but all of us have those spheres of influence. If you were to fill out those sets of circles, you would be amazed at the reach of your own influence. So leadership is difference making. We're all in this in order to make a difference. Otherwise, we would have chosen different work, right? There are two crucial functions in all organizational processes: maintenance and ideas that matter. And maintenance is really important. How do we do effective outreach? How do we adopt policies and procedures that make this organization work well? How do we attract and train and support well-qualified and engaged staff? How do we develop the resources that we'll have to create the future that we want for our organization? How do we create a stable budget? If we don't do these maintenance-oriented things and lead in those ways, then we are lost. Those are so important. But it's also true that these broader purposes that we talked about this morning in Jared's session, the purposes in our work, expressed as we often like to call it, ideas that matter, are critical as well. Ideas like, how do we protect our TRIO resources and our reach of TRIO? How do we amplify the voices of our students and communities? How do we make our TRIO projects and professionals more powerful in changing students' possibilities? How do we advance the cause of equity through educational opportunity? Those are the bigger ideas that, along with maintenance, we're trying to accomplish. So we're always operating at two levels. Unfortunately, the most common way organizations operate is that ideas that matter only get a little bit of attention, because we're so consumed with organizational maintenance. And part of that is because it's really easier to work on organizational maintenance. We're more comfortable with that. But what we would desire is that the very best of our energies are committed to ideas that matter, because we're so efficient with organizational maintenance that maintenance doesn't drive out those broader purposes.
Well, we like this quote from Dave Bookbinder, and I think he really captures what we see as what a difference maker is. Great difference makers shift from seeing themselves as workers with an assignment to crank out. And again, that's all your responsibilities. That's everything on your job description. You shift to seeing themselves as people with a difference to make, the ideas that matter. Paul used the term again, difference maker, making a difference, and all leaders make a difference. We all make differences all the time. What we do make a difference, especially because we sometimes have influence that we don't even realize that we have. But when you ask, will I make a difference? This really is kind of a narrow perspective of the idea. of difference making, because it really fails to consider the bigger picture and overlooks that our actions have implications beyond the direct cause and effect. What's a better question to ask instead is, what difference will I make? This one is more accurate because it is referring to the bigger picture, the perspective of ideas that matter. What difference will I make is a question that intentionally implies that everything that we do matters in some way. And I wanted to share an example about the difference between these two questions. Well, Paul and I are on the board for another organization called Trees, Water, and People. And for years, we were donors. Will we have a difference? Will we make a difference there? Absolutely. We made a difference by contributing financially. But we also wanted to have a difference that would be more impactful, that would be stronger. So when we were asked to join the board of TWP, we really were excited about it because we would have the potential of having a greater impact. We were part of not only the decision making for policies and starting new programs, we also are on different committees to have different aspects, to be able to focus on different aspects and components of the program. You know, I did some grant writing with them, and I also am on the committee, so we've planned some activities. So again, my stretch, the difference that I make, what's much broader than will I make a difference? So again, what difference will I make really can be said differently in terms of what can I do to have an impact? Maybe not only immediately, but as well as the immediate future. And recognizing that everything that you do makes a difference, and that we are all a part of something bigger than ourselves, whether sometimes we realize that or not. I think you might be familiar with this saying, and sometimes I have a hard time saying it, but the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The contributions of every single TRIO professional is contributing to that of the whole, the purpose of Aspire and TRIO.
So shifting from this broad idea about leadership and thinking about our association and our part in it, I want to start, by the way, by clarifying the relationship of all the TRIO parts to others. So for example, if I think of me, there's me, and then I join Aspire with a project membership. When I join as a project member,
A personal membership.
a personal professional membership,
Yeah.
now I am a member of Aspire. I'm not only a member of Regional Aspire, but I'm also automatically a member of my state chapter of Aspire. But then we have other layers of Aspire association as well. So just because I'm a member of Aspire, I am automatically associated with the Council for Opportunity and Education, COE, because COE is an organization that's composed of the 10 regional associations. So I'm not personally a member of COE because Aspire is the member, but because I'm a member of Aspire, that makes me automatically have a relationship and be a part of the Council for Opportunity and Education. And we want to talk about each of these levels and the possibilities for engaging at a fuller level. Now, last session, we talked about how important it is to have a narrative about the purposes of our association. You know, one view, maybe from the outside, is, oh, well, they dress up and get together and go away from campus. Or maybe it's, well, they have a board that meets to make decisions about a conference and manage the budget. Or we hear speakers and go to concurrent sessions. But I think a broader view might be something like this, that we bring together the college opportunity advocates in this region, all the people on this call, to develop strategies that are going to move our students far beyond what others expect of them. Together, we advocate effectively for our programs and advance equity and opportunity locally and nationally. We magnify the power of our joint power by capitalizing on our collective wisdom and commitments and investing in the development of our members' talents and capabilities. That to me captures much more of the broader purposes of Aspire. And I really see, when we think of all our activities, anything that we do in our Aspire Association, they boil down to these three really important categories. First one is advocacy, to conduct and coordinate powerful advocacy. I will say, without a doubt, absolutely, I knew that the only reason that I ever had a career in TRIO for all those decades, the only reason that we had a program at CS, Colorado State University, that the only reason we were able to serve over that period of time thousands of students, the only reason was because back in the early days, we chose to associate. We chose to come together to conduct and coordinate powerful advocacy. Without that, given a longer time, I could demonstrate the critical points at which we could have lost it. But without that, none of that would have been possible. That is because we have come together in an association. And by the way, we will always be threatened. Organizations that work with marginalized populations, as we do, will always be under threat. So there will never be a time when we say, we've been so successful that we don't have to worry any longer about advocacy. So a second category of activity that's so important to us is the idea of effectiveness. It's not just we want to belong to something, we want to belong to something that makes us better. And I can tell you that belonging to Aspire made me a much better director. It put me in touch with information that I didn't have otherwise. It helped me understand cutting edge strategies in TRIO and to implement those. It helped me be a leader on my campus and understand some of the political skills I needed to assure that we were an increasingly important influence on our campus. And the last category is that of community. And we in TRIO really understand community. When I'm together with my TRIO colleagues, I am re-inspired always, always. It is good to be around people with like minds, people with the same kind of heart, people who are deeply committed to making a difference for our students and communities. So I see those as the three basic functions of our association: advocacy, increasing effectiveness, and building and maintaining our community. Now, we exert influence and we spend our energies at all kinds of levels. The first one, of course, is in our project. That's where we're living kind of our daily life. But the next level is the institution. And the point that we've tried to make today is that we must be a part of that institution in a bigger way. We need to create the room for TRIO and for our students at the institution. Next level is the state level. We have the opportunity to be involved in our state chapters, as you all are. Beyond that, at the regional level, Aspire as a regional association. And finally, at the national level, in the through the Council for Opportunity and Education. Now, a question that often comes up, this is me, right?
This is you.
Is the sense that, and often when we're talking to people about, would you like to run for an office? And sometimes people say, oh, I just don't have time. Now, sometimes that's really true. I mean, sometimes it's just the wrong time to increase one's involvement. But the point that I want to make is that we often think of it in terms of this zero-sum game where if I'm doing this, then I can't do another thing without subtracting from the first. And I don't think that's true with leadership. I think leadership roles complement and enhance our work. So if I think that my work in my project and my program is my fundamental role, if I don't do that well, I don't have a job and I can't serve students. So that's the main one. But when I have a leadership role, the first thing that I get is the opportunity to broaden my perspective on how organizations operate. And I find that doing that makes me a better director back on my campus. It exposes us to cutting edge strategies for our projects. We take those home and we make our project better by doing that. We can enhance our political skills for broadening influence with our institutions. Honestly, the most I ever learned about politics and influencing our institution was through my involvement with the association. And developing leadership skills for every work setting that we'll find ourselves, both now and in the future. Leading a group of volunteers, because that's what Aspire is, right? We're all volunteers in that. Teaches us how to motivate and organize people to get things done. We use that everywhere. Now we all come into leadership positions differently. I can tell you that deep inside myself, I'm a deep introvert, and I don't seek public situations. So it was a shock for me when I was a brand new director. And I went to one of my first Colorado State meetings, and people said, "Oh, well, Paul will be our new president because he doesn't know any better." That's how I came into leadership. And I came into leadership wondering how to do this with all kinds of self-doubts, not knowing whether I was good for this. How could I serve people? Well, I didn't have a whole lot of experience. But one of the things that I find to be true is that the most fulfillment that we ever experience is when we commit, and it's when we grow. When we are committed to something and when we grow, then that's incredibly fulfilling in the end. The opposite is not committing, not being more engaged, and that's just so darn unfulfilling. So I look at people on the call and the ways that you have continued to contribute, and everyone in a different way. Some with more charisma than I will ever have, and others in quiet ways that are equally or more effective.
Before we go to the
Mhm.
small group activity, I guess it
Yep.
might even be an individual activity with having the small number of participants in our session. Is for me, I was kind of the reluctant leader as well. I know when I became the director of the SSS project here at CSU, I was approached by several people who said, why don't you run for the new treasurer for our state chapter, because we know that he's leaving and we need to have a treasurer. Well, I was thinking, well, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm really embedded in my program enough that I would have the time to do something else. With a little arm twisting and I guess convincing even from Paul, it was a great experience for me. It gave me the opportunity to really grow professionally too, as Paul has shared. I think the other benefit was it really gave us more visibility on campus, because we were with the board. And when I talked with my supervisor, I could share with my supervisor about what was going on, not only in our state, but again, our region, as well as nationally in the area of equity in education. And I really valued the opportunity to be a part of something larger than myself, to be around people who were very passionate, very committed, very bright, and it gave me a chance to feel inspired too. So it was a very powerful experience for me to serve in the formal position of being the state treasurer, and then again later on after that is the treasurer for Aspire. Our plan was to really have small groups, but I think maybe we will have I think
we have 8 people.
we have 8 people. Okay, maybe we can have some groups, and maybe some of you may be working by yourself. We want to have you assign to focus on a particular level of engagement. We talked about project and of course, host institution in these 5 areas. So we'll assign you to that. In your groups, we're going to ask you to think about the next steps. What would be the next steps for you, as well as possibly your organization might want to take in terms of advancing the organizational purposes? So the question is, what are some next steps either I or we might want to take in working toward our organizational purposes? Is there a new way that you might join in to contribute? What might be a possible way that you may want to consider as a professional? Or is there a next step that your organization, that you wish your organization might take in any of these areas? So I hope this makes sense. And then we're going to be dividing either in groups, or some of you are going to be working, doing a solo.
Why don't we
I wanna
skip national?
Okay.
And do 4 groups.
Okay,
So if we do 4 groups, then
or do you want to skip state?
randomly, and do state together?
Yeah, let's do state together.
Okay. So why don't we ask Becky and Casey to be a group and think about this question with relationship to your work in the TRIO project. And then let's ask Brenda and Cheryl to think about the next step in engaging with a host institution. Kaylin and Marion thinking about
Region.
the regional aspire. And Don, we'll join you again. I did it, honestly, I did it randomly.
Cat's
Yeah.
join.
Oh, Kat.
Maybe Cat can join
I
with
don't,
4. Can we have her?
I don't know how to make that happen. We'll join Dawn and Kat. I'm going to try and figure out how to get you with Dawn. But in the meantime, so is it clear? Directions clear? Give me a sign. Yeah? Okay. Thank you. Then we're going to send you into breakout rooms for just about 6 minutes.
Okay.
And just brainstorm. Don't give this, deep thought. What's next thing we could do? What's the next step for me and a next step for my organization? Ready? Here we go.
I don't know how to get Cat in 4. Oh, there's a move. Yeah, move to. Or can you get Cat up here? So
Oh, yeah.
can Cat,
Hi, Kat.
there, she can be assigned
Assigned to
group 4.
room 4.
There. Got it.
Good. Glad it worked. It's already 2:20.
Oh my gosh. Maybe they can just, when we process, they can just share one thing,
Mhm.
and then we can do the state pretty quickly, you think? Would that be okay?
Mhm.
Think we can do that?
left too soon.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That was our problem, not yours. We're watching the
Don,
time.
I'm sorry, I left too soon. We're right in the middle of an inspiring conversation.
Oh, good. Oh, I hope you can continue it. Marion, just as people are coming back, we just want to send our good wishes to your daughter. Hope she's doing well.
Julia,
Oh, thank you. He's doing great.
tell her hi for us.
Yes, please do.
And they have.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
No.
This computer is busted, so it doesn't really well. How about now?
Okay. No, I'm sorry. Here,
How about
we'll catch
now?
up after. Yes.
Maybe we can catch up after.
Yes. So good to see you all back. Now we want to, in very short order, do a little bit of sharing.
And because we have 5 minutes to finish all of this, maybe you each can think of one way that you decided what your next step might be.
So if we start with,
So the project level. So it's the one above this.
are you seeing the screen?
So it's going to be Becky and Casey. We'll do that one.
Okay. Hopefully you're seeing the screen. Are you?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So Becky and Casey, what was one of your ideas?
Sure. So I shared a little bit about my current involvement and my program's current involvement in leadership roles within Aspire. And Casey shared a little bit more about his program and some of the different organizations that he is getting to know. We shared quite a bit about really just kind of getting to know the ins and outs of different programs, taking those beginning steps of learning from others, especially within some of the organizations that Casey is starting to get to know in his new position. And then I shared a little bit about, within TRIO SSS at NSU, we're pretty active in Aspire. And for me, that's been highly beneficial in, making higher connections as well. So I've got connections, here on campus. I have connections within the Aspire region, but also at the COE level through working in South Dakota development. So that's been a nice bridge to kind of build those connections up.
Great, great. Thank you, Becky. Post-institution?
Okay.
Was that Brendan?
Yes, talking
Go
about the
ahead.
institution, Cheryl Kingsbury and I were pretty much on the same page. We started, well, we're a Christian Catholic school, so it worked out perfect. It's called Breaking Bread. And so every quarter we would have a different department come over, registrar's office, admissions, different ones that we know we need for TRIO to interact. And we would just serve soup, salad, breaking bread, and a dessert. And it was just to get to know one another. This was so helpful. And then another quick one is we have 5 schools at the University of Mary. And so I set up meetings to be invited as a speaker at the deans/chairs meeting. So not their whole schools, but just them, to tell them about TRIO, how we want to collaborate with faculty advisors, not trump them, and just to tell them about the TRIO program. And that was super helpful. I have teachers calling and saying, I'm going to send somebody down. I think they'd work in TRIO really well, that type of thing. So it's just building those connections with different departments on campus in our institutions.
Perfect. And
Is it Kaylin and is it Marion?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me now with this headset?
yes.
Great.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, my computer is not working properly. Yeah, we talked about,
you said how to advance the organization. And we were thinking maybe doing more with legislative outreach, just getting our message out there and our purpose and gaining more support within the region. And another thing, the only other thing we talked about specific to talent search was like at the time, we are not, meaning USD talent search doesn't have a summer program, and we were looking about expanding that and possibly discussing with the other programs in the region that are talent search what they're doing and find some more commonalities and some mutual support.
Great.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And then the last group was Kat and Dawn looking at opportunities on the national level.
One of the things we discussed is to ensure that we have that mentoring program that we have here right now, that we've got that mentoring program, but also to make sure that we have mentoring programs, not only just to get our leaders ready at that national level, but to make sure that we have those at the state and on to going. I was very, very fortunate that I have Ben Shapiro, who is kind of like he was my mentor. He's the outgoing president. And we didn't even have something like that set up here in North Dakota. We just, boom, you're the president. And and having that, into wanting to go forward, it's a little, overwhelming at first, Paul, like you had no idea what you were doing. So they just made you the president and there you go. We've come a long way. We absolutely have, but we need to, make sure within our states that we have those kind of mentoring programs, whether you have an incoming state president like we do in South Dakota. I think they have something like that, whether you have that mentoring kind of process. And then, the outgoing, to make sure those mentoring processes are in place so we can continue to be leaders as we move up into the regional and into the national level.
Great, thank you. We're realizing that we're short on time, and so we'll wind up in just the next couple of minutes to try and not make you late for the next thing. When we think of making a difference on the Aspire state chapter level, we were going to do this together, but Marilyn, what are some of the things that come to your mind?
I just wanted to make a comment before we go into this. I think this is kind of like a new frontier for us. Even though a lot of policy is made for K-12 higher education at the state level, oftentimes we're not really involved at that level. So we had intended to spend a little bit more time on this, but because we're short on time, maybe Paul, would you like to share some examples?
Sure. When we think of brand new frontiers at the state level, here's a couple ideas. We actually did this in Colorado. We decided a day at the Capitol, we would join another group. So we joined with the Colorado State Counseling Association. They already had a day at the Capitol. They got 1 million members on a big budget. So we joined in. We became familiar with current policy issues, and then we joined the counselors in their meetings with legislators. That was a great way in at the state legislature for us. Another thing that we did, this was actually a long time ago when I was Colorado State president, we decided we'd replicate the National Policy Conference at the state level. So we got our whole membership together. On day one, we educated our membership on how to talk with legislators, and we invited legislators to speak to our group so they became familiar with us and us with them. And then day two, we had appointments at our Capitol. And in your states, it's so nice that you're so small and intimate that you have a relationship with legislators that's probably even better than what we have. More recently, we've organized a collaborative forum, and we have 3 groups involved. We have the Department of Higher Education, the Department of K-12, and TRIO. It's just us, and we talk about issues of equity in the state. That's been really, really helpful for us. And then we experimented with this. We hired a lobbyist. Now, remember, we can't use project money with that, but we can use association money, and we can't afford a whole lobbyist. So we just hired a part of a lobbyist, and that lobbyist worked for us. They helped us become familiar with all the things of our interest. They tracked legislation for us. They represented us to legislators, and again, presented to our membership so that we would be ever more informed.
And I know, I know we're going through a lot of these very quickly, but again, we're going to share the slides with you. And then finally, we wanted to end with a quote that we started with, difference making. Great difference makers shift from seeing themselves as workers with an assignment to crank out to seeing themselves as people with a difference to make. So focusing on what is the purpose of your work? What is the purpose of your association? And how can you make a difference on those levels?
We want to thank you for being part of this time together, but even more than that, for the wonderful work you're doing on behalf of your communities and your students. TRIO is lucky to have you, and we are lucky, aren't we, to have something that we can totally commit to with our whole heart. Really appreciate being with you. Sorry we went a little bit over. Wish you all well. Good luck with everything that you do.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Marilyn,
Yes.
yeah, did you see what I wrote in here? Julia is doing fantastic.
Oh,
And,
wonderful.
oh, great.
Let me look at the chat real quick. I'm so glad to hear that.
She teaches art
Where is she
in
right now?
Corvallis, Oregon. She
Oh,
teaches high school art. And
Oh my
they
gosh.
just went, they were virtual all year and just went to in person. This week is her first week in person. She finally got a physical classroom because they were
Wow.
virtual all
Wonderful
year.
for her.
But she's
Oh,
somewhere
great.
there's something she wrote up, some project she did is on a website somewhere. I tried to find it for you and then I would share it
Yes,
with
please,
you.
please send it our way and please tell her hi for us and so proud of her.
I
Yes.
definitely
So
will.
proud.
Let me see if your email address still pops up for me if I.
It's also going to be in the
Marilyn.
slide. It's going to be in the slides too.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Who-
Okay,
who
you
has-
are you say, yeah, there it is. Hold on, let me write that. It's just logical. Okay, yeah, colostate.edu. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So we wish her well. We wish she would come back to CSU, but we're pleased that she went on as well.
Well, she's in high school. I mean, a high school teacher. So, but yeah, she's actually taking graduate classes there as well.
Oh,
But
good.
the
Good for her.
the reason she went there to begin with is because her boyfriend or fiance is, you know, that's always the strongest motivator for these young kids. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's the reason she is there. And one of my other sons lives there as well in Eugene, so she's close to him and his kids. But yeah, I will
Yes.
see her here in a month. She'll come home for a while, and then Thanksgiving I'm going out there to see her. So
How
Okay.
nice. How
but
nice.
Wonderful.
Well, great to hear.
But give
I will-
her our regard. Yeah.
I will definitely do that, probably today yet. So I should be talking to her later.
Okay.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
to see you, Mary. You take
You
care.
too.
Bye.
You too. See you
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.